Today, we have a frequent speaker, Mr. Graham Furnis is joining us again. He's a senior consultant at the BWise company. Graham is fully immersed and passionate in providing ITSM solutions. He is a business-driven IT professional with 20-plus years experience in technology and management. Graham is certified as an ITIL manager and expert, as well as an accredited ITIL instructor. In today's session, he'll be talking about problem management. It's more than a process flow. And he will discuss the scope and definition of problems, how to manage them, and suggest an approach that is focused towards incident management. Key learning coming out of today's session should be an understanding of understanding what problem management is managing. Say that 3 times quickly. Identifying a handful of key success factors, and understand how to position problem management with incident management. So I will turn things over to Graham. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, please use the question box in your control panel. I'll monitor that and pose those questions or comments to Graham at the appropriate point in time. And please don't hesitate. We'd love to have interactive sessions. Graham, it's all yours.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, John. And again, welcome everyone to our Thought Rock presentation today. And this is a bit of a rerun of a little bit of a modification, but we've done several workshops and presentations on problem management, and it's by popular demand we brought it back again just to give a bit of a discussion today on trying to understand exactly what problem management is. We have a lot of clients who are doing work in trying to move towards implementing and setting up a problem management process. And the biggest challenge is truly understanding, what is it actually managing? As the title says here, it's more than just a process flow, right? Whenever you do anything in ITIL and set up any process, it's not just a matter of coming up with a process diagram and you're done. There's a lot more work to do in terms of justifying what it is and how it contributes to the bottom line of the business and IT. And as we run through things today, I'll just do what I do with any process really, just try and understand what it is and what it's managing, and some of the key success factors. And problem is always a fun one, because even though people are doing a lot of work in it, there's still a lot of confusion related to incident, which is where we're going to begin with. So let's get started with the first piece here, and what I'd like to do in these presentations is just clarify some of our terms just from some generic definitions. So the definition of a problem, it's the unknown cause of one or more incidents. And so again, you see even in the basic ITIL definitions, it's very closely related to the incident process. So in the next part of my slide, let's define what an incident is, just generically. Everyone may have a slight deviation. Some type of unplanned event, and it's any type of deviation from normal operation. So this could be disruption or a failure of an IT service or subcomponents, reduction in the quality of that service, some type of slowdown or other type of performance issue. And if you have event monitoring out there, any type of event that has been set up to raise a warning saying that something could lead to a reduction in quality or disruption to the agreed service level, that qualifies as an incident as well. So with all of those definitions, when we raise these incidents and we record them as tickets, then they're candidates to become problems. So let's go a bit further then. And a bit of a confusion I've seen, I think people are getting the hang of it, is every incident a problem? And the answer here is, in my opinion, no. Not every incident is a problem. There's simply the first point here. There's so many incidents that happen for varying reasons. And just from a business point of view and a justification and cost factor, you can't investigate every incident through a separate work effort, which is problem management. So, so those two things mean that we need to have a bit of a rule. When do we go from one thing to another? And my rule is that you need to come up with a basic statement saying we're going to manage significant incidents as problems, and we have to define what a significant incident is for our organization.
So, Graham, quick question here. I don't really see the difference here between the problem and the incident still. So if there's a significant incident and the same people stay on it until it's resolved, when does that turn into a problem?
Yeah, and that's a perfectly good question. I don't have a specific slide to kind of show that, but I'm going to do a little, I like to draw on these slides. So let's just run through a little scenario that will help, again, to distinguish between incident and problem. So let me do a little star here. So when something in IT isn't quite working, that little explosion or whatever, that creates our initial incident. So this gets processed through the incident management levels here. We have level 1, the service desk. They get typically alerted first. And if this is sort of a basic thing, not a high priority type of incident, it'll then flow through to a generic level 2 support. And if they can't have it, or handle it, we send it to the next most expert level, which is level 3. So, which I don't have in my slides, the purpose of incident management is all time driven. Restore workability, I want to call it that, back to the end user as quickly as possible. So we want to try and make as short as possible a turnaround time through this incident management process. And this is an important thing about the difference. Incident management can achieve success. Let's say a printer's failed. So if they remap users to a different printer, okay, well they just turned the corner of that incident management cycle. If they couldn't figure out what was wrong with the printer that's broken, they don't want to keep users waiting while they do the investigation. Again, they want quick turnaround. They just want end users to be productive, get back to what you're doing, and let us in IT deal with trying to figure out how to fix things. So here's where you get the crossover potentially between incident and problem management. So if that printer is just giving us a headache and we don't know exactly what failed on it, and someone needs to be taken offline and given a day or 2 days, whatever it might be, to go and take that printer apart. I know typically we call in an outside support organization. And we need to decide, and it's one of the policies, it's one of the key policies you need to have within problem management. You need to decide what is the crossover line where we're going to pick up this particular issue here, and we're going to assign a dedicated team to go ahead and start dealing with that particular incident. So in the incident management process, when we get to level 3, these people are support. They're meant to just come up with a fix and a workaround, get people back to work. But we need to figure out, well, at what point do we want to take people out of incident management not to be interrupted and be dedicated to just working on this problem and given quality time, not time pressure to come up with a resolution, but just quality time to do the investigation. So not the best of diagrams, but again, this little wall here, this is a key thing. You need to define for your own organization what everyone agrees upon, which says here's where we're going to cross the line and set up a dedicated team to investigate this issue. And that's why when you set up a dedicated team, you're spending time and resource, and you only want to do that when it's a significant incident. So going back to my example of a printer.
We have a comment, Graham.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, just a comment or question that came in. I thought you were pausing there for a second. I thought that an incident wouldn't go to problem management until it was proven that the incident continues to occur. Is there different criteria that tells us when we should move from incident management to problem management?
Oh, yeah, no, that's an excellent question. That's only a piece of problem management, that statement that, when we think something is going to reoccur, we should investigate it in problem management. In my opinion, and just from experience and from the ITIL text as well, problem management says something happened and we don't want this to happen again. So there's a typical rule whenever you have a priority 1 type of incident or priority 2, and again, you have to define these rules for your and policies for your organization. But we should always investigate a P1 to make sure it doesn't happen again, because the very definition of priority 1 means also impact 1 on the business, and we just cost the company time and money because something failed, and you don't want that to happen again, and you want to give good assurance back to your customers that we're looking after the IT infrastructure and all these services. If we just had something big happen, we've done our due diligence to give you assurance that it's not going to happen again. So we don't just wait for something to become recurring to say it goes to problem management. That's a piece of problem management, but it's not the whole story. So again, it goes back to this little line I have up here, significant incidents. So when something is significant, we need a little bit of a rules engine and a policy to say here's where we need to send it to problem management. So in the example of a printer, that's probably not a significant incident, and probably would leave it in incident management with the level 3 support technicians to go and call a third-party company to come in and fix the printer or whatever it might be. If a major application fails, or some type of major application server fails, and our incident management process does all of its workarounds and starts up a backup application and server, well, that's incident management. To dig down and figure out why did an application and a server fail is probably going to take time and effort and needs to have a dedicated skilled team. And that's probably the example of a significant incident where it goes to problem management. So hopefully, that's a good discussion to have, and it's a good one to have here. That's a key thing about understanding problem management and being able to justify coming up with a problem process within an organization. Because you really have to manage, it kind of relates to the next presentation coming up about project management. Every time you investigate an issue, that's a project, and you want to manage projects, and because it's problem investigation, you should do it with a consistent problem management approach. So that's another piece to problem management. So I think hopefully that's given you a good understanding about the differences and the relationship between incidents and problems. Again, the main thing is the goal and objective and the time measures. Incident management is rapid restoration through a workaround or whatever means to get users back to work. Problem management is saying that something significant happened and we need to create a project team to go and investigate it. Even if it's one person, they need to be given time and resource to go and investigate why did this happen to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So one last question, Graham. So
yeah.
If in the case of a that's my phrases, a not significant incident, if the cause of the incident is still unknown, might that also trigger problem management?
It does, but if you want to be successful with problem management, you need to have a rule saying, is it significant enough to trigger it? And my next slide will kind of talk a bit more to that because, again, problem management is simply a business case decision. You cannot investigate every incident as a problem. Time and resource simply will not allow you to do that, and there's not a good business case for it. And that's why you need the definition of a significant incident. And if I go to my next slide, I'm going to start from the bottom up on this one. The way that we handle those things that don't show up or go to problem management, the proactive approach. So whenever we do proactive problem management, we're trying to prevent things from becoming significant incidents down the road. And we tend to do a lot of training and trending and monitoring of our incident tickets. So all of those things that are going on, we're trying to say, is there a trend on components or services? Is there something to tell me that we're seeing an increase in the number of incidents that are typically lower level and haven't come to us yet? And it's like tremors of a small, an earthquake. You get small tremors before the big earthquake. So we're trying to find where are things showing a tremor that it might go wrong in a big way down the road, and we should maybe go and do some proactive investigation, set up a project and a team under problem management to figure out what might be happening. So reactively, though, and again, it's all part of, that's why I say problem management is more than a process flow. Process flow is just a diagram. It's a high-level way of saying here's how I want things to flow when I'm managing a process. The real keys to that success of setting up a problem management department and process area is that you need to have all of these policies to understand how do things come to me and become a problem. So proactively, we always talk about this is the process that should be doing trending. I mean, everyone does trending, but we're trying to proactively identify things to create our own problem tickets and identify based on trending incident tickets. And then reactively, again, you need that rule saying what's a significant incident that should automatically go to problem management for investigation. And then you should also have a policy saying when can people just request for me to investigate something. So going back to that question that John mentioned earlier, we have a problem or an incident and we don't know the cause and we think it should be investigated. So if in incident management you think something should be investigated, then reactively contact problem management and say here's the incident ticket and the situation. Look in your problem dashboard of all the open tickets and the number of people engaged throughout the organization. Do you have room to investigate this incident? So again, it's a business decision.
So Graham, sorry, Graham, we do have a question.
Sure.
From Fred. So are you saying that proactive problem management stems from event management?
No, not event and incident.
Okay.
Again, anything you can do to start trending and figuring out that, hey, we're starting to get some tremors out there. And again, it goes back to, there's no one answer because if I went into an organization, it depends. Are you managing events by just simply a separate process and event alarms, or are you putting these into incident management as incident tickets? In the perfect generic ITIL world, an event alarm that goes off would trigger an incident ticket to document that event, and therefore problem management is still trending the incident tickets. It may not be a high priority because it's an event, not an actual user impacting incident. And if you do it that way, then it makes problem management's job a bit easier because they haven't got to go to all these different data sources to do the trending. They can rely upon trending all of the incident tickets. So, so the main thing here is that these are the two sort of different goals and objectives within problem management. So most people are familiar with the reactive approach. So something happens, we get asked to investigate it. And again, you need to have those rules and policies to say when do we automatically do it and how do we have an intake procedure where we say we have enough time and resource to investigate everything coming to us. Some things you're going to have to turn away because again, problem management, in my view, has to be business driven. You have to have a good business case for the cost of time and effort of putting a team aside to investigate an issue. So if it's got good business impact and good value for trying to investigate something, then there's a good business case for doing, opening up a problem ticket and assigning people. And then proactively, someone out there has to be doing the trending, and we give it to problem management to try and say, you be proactive and try and figure out where you see trends happening. So, so let's go on to our next slide then, and a couple of the key success factors. And I kind of mentioned these already, but I just want to run through and cover the same things again to make sure they're visualized. So again, I talked about this quite a bit. The problem policies. And I've actually expanded on it a little bit here. So we always talk about impact and priority type 1 incidents and things that go on within ITIL. You need to have a major incident definition. So again, you have to work closely with incident management and throughout the ITIL framework with other process areas. Everyone needs to know what's a major incident, what's a priority 1, what's an impact 1. Right? These need to be common definitions. The typical policy that I would recommend with a major incident, this would be a priority 1 type of incident, impact 1 on the business. Right away, you're going to form a major incident team within your IT support, and the problem process will be a part of that team, and they're going to start investigating with their problem management approaches. As soon as a major incident happens, they should start a separate team just focusing on, let's figure out what went wrong and how to properly fix it. Incident management has its major incident team. They're saying, how do we restore service back to the business as quickly as possible? If we can't figure out what's wrong, that's not our primary responsibility. We want to just get users back to work. So you can imagine, email goes down. In a lot of companies, that's considered fairly high level. Depends on how the business has defined it. But if that's a major incident, then incident management is trying to figure out, how do we just get the email server up and running? Do we have a backup that people can send and receive emails even if they can't get to their archived emails? And then you have a problem team working on the same issue saying, what went wrong and how do we properly fix it? So again, you need to have that policy and have the format of the team set up to understand, when do we do work concurrently and when does it flow from incident to later on problem. So then one step down, this is sort of my addition to these definitions, you also want to define a significant incident, the type of thing where maybe we don't have the major incident teams formed right away because this might be a P2 or maybe a P3 type of incident, and if we feel at the end of it we should send it to problem management, then it's significant enough, it fits the rule. So all of these things are important because, again, you need to make a business case for every problem that's being investigated. It's going to cost time and money. Whenever you talk to management about time and money, they want to know the business case. And so that's a key success factor for problem management. When you open up a problem ticket, there needs to be good business justification. And if you talk about major and significant incidents having an impact on the business, that's the first and foremost step of justifying problem activity. And if you do it that way, it's a lot easier to justify the process and set up the procedures around it where people aren't thinking that it's just a waste of time and money. So other key success factor, proactive problem management, right? So I've already talked about this. It's all of our monitoring and trending activities, and part of that too, actually that could probably go under reactive, but intake procedures. So when do we allow other processes to come to us and say, hey, we think from service desk, we think a lot of things are happening with the email server. So we think you should investigate this as being part of our proactive approach. So this one is important, I think. And I don't, when I've gone out there and done work or looked at any of the problem areas, I don't see people kind of doing this. They set up a problem process and it sits there like an island. If you really want to know what's going on, don't underestimate the value of your service desk and your analysts. They take calls all day long, and they get a sense of what's going on. So quite often, because they're busy putting out fires, no one listens to them when they say, hey, I'm hearing a lot about these particular types of issues, or I've got this feeling that this is going on. So as part of your proactive problem management, go out there and allow other processes to help you, suggesting problem issues that might need to be investigated. Another great potential area, not every company has this fully, but service level management, even release management. These are areas that can give you good pointers to say, we think you should investigate this, and we think it's going to have a high impact on the business if something does fail and get worse. Other key success factors. So again, problem management's more than just a process flow. So once you create your tickets and you have your basic process flow of how things are getting assigned and progressed, typically it's the problem management area that's going to focus on creating good problem-solving skills throughout your IT organization and coming up with helpful ways to help people investigate problems. So I haven't got all these things listed because it would take a bit longer, but there's countless things out there. From the formal and very in-depth Kepner-Trigo approaches to some other sort of common and quick fixes. Don't underestimate that you're the problem-solving experts as a process area, and you need to be able to suggest things to help project teams and individuals keep moving forward when they hit dead ends and making sure they drive to find the root cause of each problem. Okay, a couple more slides here. The service management system, or your ticketing system. To do trending, it requires information and data. So one of your key things, because I've already talked about the link with incident management and problem management, you're going to do a lot of trending on the incident tickets. So we definitely need a really good, robust ticketing and service management system. And as well, if we're managing a whole bunch of different problem assignments out there, we're going to have to go through and make sure we have a good ticketing system to manage each problem ticket. So related to that, and that's why it's on the same slide, tickets are of no value if they don't link to hardware, software, and services. So you really need to have, in some form or another, configuration management. And quite often when you buy software these days, right? I won't mention any names, but every major software that's of an ITIL ability, they're all pretty much bundled together now. So you create your tickets, you link your tickets to configuration items of hardware, software, and services. You may include documentation, and then you can really do some good analysis and trending. And that becomes a key thing for problem management, to spread its wings out, when people are doing the actual investigation, and say, where is something failing, and how do I find it, and try and correct it to get to the root cause. And I think another slide here, I think it's the last one I have right now for key success factors, so the problem record. So I put this here just to kind of flow along. So we just talked about the service management system and configuration items. And then in ITIL, we have two different records that are talked about within problem management. And they don't have to be separate records. They could be the same one. But conceptually, you should think of these two separate things. So we have the problem record. And the problem record is created for the process and any teams that have been assigned to the process to manage the project that they're doing. Right? They've been assigned a problem, investigate this issue, and your problem ticket has all the information about the project aspect. Here's how much time you have, here's the people assigned, here's what's been done before, here's what links to the incident records, so you have a story to be told from the incident records themselves. And then we talk about later on, well, as you start investigating and you start to find out information you can share back to the incident support process as well as other processes. If something happens again of a similar nature, we want to be able to match symptoms. Someone's calling in, here's a standard set of symptoms you can choose from a drop-down, and oh, by the way, if we're in incident management, you never want to do reinvent the wheel. You want to do things quickly. So if the symptoms pop down, we say, does it link to any known errors? And if so, there might be a quick workaround which will help me be successful in incident management to say, I can get you back to work, user, as quickly as possible because I have a quick workaround here. Again, printers. Map them to another printer down the road, and then that can allow us to resolve the issue while the user still has some basic business functionality. So the known errors database, this is the one that's meant to be shared as part of the search engine. Again, common ticketing tools these days can build all this into one tool. And it's a huge success factor because we're trying to create all those things which we have as typically tribal knowledge of how we fix, and we're trying to come up with a one consistent source of information to say, search this instead of searching 10 different things to try and resolve your incident because these are now the known errors and the known fixes. Right? And eventually we'll add to that saying, well, here's how we diagnosed the root cause of it before. And so this becomes a search engine for everyone. Incident management uses it to try and resolve incidents as quickly as possible. If it's been done before, let's use the same workarounds and root cause fixes. Problem management, when you're initially investigating a new problem, again, why reinvent the wheel? Go back and see if there isn't something you've done before and you can follow either the same steps or maybe it's a similar cause. Change and release management, they can use this. If you have a new change on the table and you're looking at different components, what's failed in the past, what kind of problems and workarounds have been found in the past for the same type of component or change or release. And again, you can search on this and say, hey, I didn't realize that the last time we did some similar type of release, we had all of these problems, and now we can learn from our past and not repeat our mistakes. So again, for a short lunchtime presentation, those are the main
One
things.
question here, Graham.
Yep.
For the known error database, are all of those things stored in one database, or are there multiple databases?
Again, it goes back to the tool set you have at hand, and typically you have to say as well your legacy systems. So as I drew up here, conceptually, they're two separate records, which means they can potentially be two separate databases. And you definitely need tools for this because these are your search tools and your project management tools. Most of the software that comes today, if you get the full-blown features and you enable everything, these are going to reside within one database, right? Your service management system becomes an enterprise-wide software. So, and again, it goes back to legacy as well. People have been doing support work, unless you're a brand new company, you've been doing it for years and years. And a lot of the workarounds and other information you have, incident management and service desk, they've been creating their own information sources over time. And if problem management is new, well, how much time and effort do you want to actually go through to transfer all of that data into a new database structure? So it goes back to the business aspect of process management, which is coming up with a good plan about saying how we can justify putting a process in. We put the tools in place to support the process, and like everything with ITIL, you have to progress it over time. So my answer is more than likely you're going to have two separate databases that form the problem records and the known error database to begin with. And as time goes on, in a perfect world, we'd like to bring all of that into one common structure, but only if it's business justified. If it's working with separate databases, my general take on process implementation and adoption is that don't reinvent the wheel unless you have to. Okay, so the last slide I have, I should keep us pretty much on schedule, is just kind of, again, running through a little demonstration about, how problem management can work and how you can get some different ways of justifying and setting it up. So before I do that, I'm going to jump to a slide here. Even though we're not actually doing open dialogue yet, that comes in a minute. But think about this question down here. So again, the main thing about problem management and what I've just gone through, it's not just about investigating everything, and it's not just about investigating, hardware and software. You really have to come up with a good definition about what is it that the business will be happy with if I investigate things to try and make sure that if it's an incident, it doesn't repeat itself, or do I have even a bigger scope? Right? And so to kind of, so to get you thinking about that and to see a little example, I'll go back up a slide. So I have this little very simple scattered diagram here of some of the different processes within the ITIL framework. And again, it could be much bigger than this. I just, it's probably bigger than it should be, but I just put it here for a bit of discussion. So I'm just going to put a little line across the top here. So we have sort of the business interfacing level at the top. Those familiar with service design, you recognize service level management and availability management, capacity and security management. Those are just a couple of things which we typically have in the design area. And that, service level management, they're typically along with service catalog management, and if you're familiar with service strategy, they're trying to define IT services, and for each of those, they're coming up with our service level agreements to define that here's how we've defined normal operations for the services in our service catalog. And then, of course, our users can then use all these services. So where problem management sits on this this side right here, this is our service operation side of the ITIL framework. And again, just to kind of see how it flows and some of the key tools in the middle over here. So if this particular IT service up here suddenly has some type of failure or reduction in quality of service, well, that's going to trigger incident management. And the typical flow, the user will call the service desk at level 1 support. That triggers the formal incident management process to say follow these steps, and based upon the priority that you've just specified for the incident ticket, and here's the next steps you take. It may then say, well, you have 10 minutes to try and resolve the issue over the phone. If not, then send it to level 2. Level 2 is a general specialist level. They go out there and try and figure out, could be a visit to the desk side, or they try and figure out what's going wrong. And if they can't figure it out, again in ITIL, you would then progress the issue to level 3, where they're a bit more expert at what they're doing and in this particular issue, and they can put their expertise to work. So here's where, again, it's just incident management. If this might be a P3 or a P4 type of incident, let's say we just have P1, 2, 3, 4, and P5 is very low-level planned events. So, but if it becomes more of a significant P2 type of event, then we might say, if you can't resolve things within, well, let's say that maybe at this point here, level 2, we can't solve the issue in terms of knowing what's wrong with the equipment. So we might come up with a workaround, right? And that gets our user back to work. So then if it's a P2, we'd say, okay, well, let's assign things to level 3. They have 4 hours to work on the issue. And if they still can't resolve it, then let's start managing it as a problem, right? And we trigger that process, and they may actually assign the same issue back to the level 3 support team and say, okay, look, we'll manage this as a problem. We have a workaround in place. Let's do some proper investigation to find the root cause, and this will help make sure that the incident doesn't happen again. If it's a P1, then as soon as the incident ticket is raised up here, we're going to open up a problem ticket because we have a policy saying all P1s need to be investigated to make sure they don't happen again. And typically you escalate to all of you might bypass the level 2 altogether. Go straight to your level 3 teams. There might be one team set up to do level 3 incident support and one team set up to do problem investigation. And they're going to work together, right? And in ITIL, the key thing about ITIL is you don't create islands. You create cooperation where people are working in teams, and while one team is trying to put out the fire, the other team is trying to dig deep to figure out what is actually causing this incident. And they're talking back and forth to help each other. So that's the reactive, more commonly understood type of activity that people think about with problem management. And then, I've drawn put in a couple more diagrams here. And then proactively, again, we're doing all of this trending over here. And we're trending all of these incident tickets to say, well, and we'll assume that the incident tickets include event alerts. So, so we're trying to see what are all the low-level things going on to try and understand, what are things that we should proactively look at because we've had low-level P2 and P3 type of situations that haven't come to problem management yet. And if we think it's going to affect a significant service way back up here, because it's been predefined by service level management as being important, then we'll investigate that. So this is the management aspect of problem management. So you assign work to the teams to do the actual digging work, but the process manager for problem management needs to constantly be assessing What do we have going on, right? Who have I assigned things to? So we're kind of juggling our staff and our resources. What trending is going on out there where I may want to open up my own ticket and start assigning things. And then I got a little door over here because we also need to have, are you going to have an open door policy, or what kind of policy is there to have more intake into your problem management process? And so you notice there's a few boxes on the screen I haven't used. So if you have an availability management process up here and a capacity management, security management, those familiar with those processes in ITIL, these processes may be doing their own trending at the service level. And they're looking at, for every service in the service catalog, what are the availability trends for it and so on. Service level management is talking to the customers on yearly reviews. So what do you think is going on with the service? So all of these areas up here, what if they have some concerns saying, there's some low-level incidents that have gone on, or just general comments that people are making, and we think they should be investigated. Well, do you want to have separate investigation processes out there? In my opinion, there shouldn't be. So this would be an intake to say, go and knock on problem management's door and say, here's my situation. I'd like to have someone investigate this to find out more about it. Do you have room, and is it a high enough priority? So this is the other aspect you need to think about with problem management. And definitely you want to do this because there's a lot of people who know what's going on, and if you don't allow them to come to you, like I said, even the service desk over here, huge source of knowing what's going on in the organization. So why isolate them? Allow them to also make recommendations to the problem process, even if it's not a P1 or P2, right? They've got a gut feel about something not quite right. Alert problem management, they're the ones who have the time and effort to focus on it and have one dedicated problem process area. And then with change management.
Graham, just a time check. It's about 1:45, just so you know.
Yep. No, actually, we're just winding down. I've only got, this is the last slide, and I've just got 2 boxes there, so we're totally on schedule.
All right, I'll let you wrap up. I do have one question for you, but why don't you finish what you were talking about?
I'll just finish off here.
Perfect.
So, so release management and change management. Again, these are other areas that you can have a link back into problem management. So I know with my background in doing development work, used to be an application database developer, and whenever we're releasing an application, and it hasn't changed in the current day, you're under timelines and pressures. You have to get the software and release out there for a business purpose. More than often, you release things with known bugs and known errors, right? And we had talked about the known errors database within problem management. So what are we going to do? Are we going to have release management keep track of their own bugs and known errors? Isn't that something that problem management does? Why would you want to have 2 data sources? As soon as you have 2 data sources, you don't know which one to check. So again, in a perfect world, it may take time to build this up, but you'd want to say for release management, hey, if you're releasing something and testing has shown some known bugs that you think won't happen, well, boy, it would be awfully handy if we could share that back to the service desk and do it in a consistent way. And if you have problem management, do it through that problem management known error database. And then change management is always kind of linked back and forth. If a change fails and you need to investigate it, how are you going to manage that and keep track of it? You might want to manage it separately within change management, or you may want to be able to assign things to the problem management process. Not to mention of which, if problem management does its work and they find the cause of a failure and they have a fix, well, that fix is going to have to go back through change management. So there's always a relationship in the process flow and the basic process with change management. So there we are. That's our presentation for today. Food for thought and another messy diagram to help kind of get you thinking about, that question on my next slide here. So when you think about problem management, think to yourselves, what am I managing? What are all the rules that separate me from incident management? What are all the policies that allow me to link to other areas of the ITIL and the IT framework in general? So how can I become the one single stop point of contact for doing good problem investigation for IT type of issues? So with that, John, I've wrapped up, and it's just questions.
All right. We do have a couple of questions. The first one from Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen. Thanks for posing the question. What are the three main items that I need to focus on when implementing problem management? So pick your top three, Graham, and what would you say?
Well, if you're implementing problem management, I would say top item number one is coming up with a common definition about what is a problem and what is an incident. So going back, let me try and bring up the same slide again, where I talked about before, I think it was slide 5. So here, we talked about major incidents and significant incidents. You want everyone to understand that, not everything's going to come to my door as the problem manager. I need to have a line saying that these are the things that should come to me automatically, my major incidents. And the significant incidents, incident management can forward it to me if they feel they haven't resolved the issue. And again, you need to come up with that distinction. It's different for every company because every company, every ITIL implementation is organizational change. So you need to figure out in your big ITIL picture, what pieces am I putting into place and how will problem management fit into it. And the best way to start is with this division between when is it an incident and when will it become a problem. So that's point number one. Point number two, and let me go back to, let's see what I have here. Point number two, I would say, is how are you going to manage problems once you record them? And so you want to think about, again, all these processes become enabled with their tools. So you want to have this division in your head saying, I need a record to manage every problem and who it's being assigned to and how it's progressing. And then you need another way of saying, well, when I find all these workarounds and diagnose root causes, how or am I going to, because again, when you're starting off with any type of process implementation, you don't go full on right away. You're going to progress the process over time. So you might not even have a known errors database to begin with. Right? Maybe that's something you'll adopt later on. But you definitely want to make sure, as a process, you need to manage things and you do it with your problem tickets. And if I were to choose, the next thing, whoops, where's my next slide here? Here it is. Again, the problem ticket shouldn't, in a perfect world, sit on its own. So think about what's my current ticketing system, what's my current way of identifying configuration items or those critical things of hardware and software and services, and how can I link those problem tickets to it. And you want to do this from the start because once you start relating tickets to each other and to hardware and software, it tells a huge story. And this will help problem management justify itself down the road and also help people doing the problem investigations. It'll help them link things together because quite often in IT, you've implemented a new application and who knew that somewhere way down the road there's another server which is causing a conflict with your application on a server in a different area. So you definitely need to know about your infrastructure layout.
All right, two more questions, Graham. Back to the release management and known errors coming from release. Has Graham found an article per bug or a release problem article is most helpful? So I think the question is one item per known bug within the release or a general article describing all the bugs within the release, if I understand that question from Tom correctly.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think what the question is that with release management, and again, I've seen this, you might have 20 or 30 bugs, right? These are things that have come out of testing saying, hey, there's a bug there, probably won't happen in production. I used to always get that. And, you never know when it does. So it's a good point. This is where, again, I won't give a generic answer. Well, I'll give a generic answer, but I can't be specific because I need to know, what's your organization used to, and what are people doing currently at the service desk and within change management and so on. Where do people look for information? If you list all of the release bugs, you have a document with a release description, and I think that's what we're talking about here, listing all of the known bugs, and make that the searchable component instead of doing a separate entry for every single bug. I think that's totally acceptable, because the last thing you want to do is make process painful. And trying to suddenly do 20 different pieces of work where you could just document it in one document, that's totally acceptable. And what will happen if you have everything documented in one document, which I kind of like, that's my predefined way of doing things or preference, then if someone is searching and saying, okay, well, are there any sort of generic symptoms we can look for or services we can link it to? If you find that document comes up and you say, oh, I think it's this release bug potential here, well, then you open up a problem ticket, and then you take that one bug out and you specifically start documenting it and managing it. So that's the way that things get documented on a second step. But again, it goes back to how big is your current problem management process and release processes. You need to evolve things. You can't just be full implementation to the highest levels of maturity. So just tailor it to what you're currently doing and try and make improvements to progress things along.
Excellent.
And there was one more question.
One more question? Yep. How do you separate proactive problem management driven from service transition processes and CSI activities, CSI being continual service improvement activities? That's from Christopher. So how do you separate proactive problem management coming from the service transition processes and the separate process, which is CSI activities?
Yeah, I think as I understand that question, there's a whole bunch of people doing sort of that proactive activity out there, which I kind of mentioned, service level management. They're doing the CSI activities because they have periodic reviews of services with their customers, and customers tend to tell you what's not working. So there's potential proactive problem management happening there. The same thing depending upon how you set up your IT or process infrastructure. Availability and capacity could be doing the same thing. As I mentioned, typically in incident management, you're trending your tickets as well. And the service desk is also trending, and they also know what's going on. So this goes back to this slide here that I have currently up. In terms of separating it, it really goes back to the way we do things in any type of process adoption. Where's your current baseline and what are people currently doing? And you don't just want to simply come out and say, okay, well, we have a plan to completely change everything you're doing and drive everything to problem management tomorrow. No one's going to like that. So you want to just evolve things from where are you now and take steps of improvement. So within problem management, if you're just implementing a problem management process, I would probably not focus on proactive problem management as my first step, because the trending activity is going on all over the place, and I don't want to duplicate effort, but I'm being set up because we need to have a defined area that will create projects and project teams to investigate the cause of problematic incidents. So those things that are either repeating themselves over and over again and having a high cumulative impact on the business, or maybe they're major impact and we don't want them to ever happen again, so we need to investigate them. So my answer about how do you separate them is it's all based upon where are you in your implementation or adoption project plan or program plan. So you need to know there is no correct answer. You don't try and centralize everything all at once, maybe not even in the future. You have to judge your organization, figure out what's working and what's not working, and you want to improve the things that aren't working. Don't go and break what's working, because that's not what the purpose of process improvement's about. So maybe not the clearest answer, but
very good.
My answer is based upon, again, don't break what works, fix what isn't working in a slow, progressive way, and And you know, I would say it's the proactive element of problem management, in my opinion, is something that if you're starting off fresh, that's going to come down the road. So you got lots of time to think about it based upon how your problem adoption starts to flow.
Excellent. Thanks, Graham. Well, I don't have any more questions, so if you can just pop to the very last slide. I will thank everyone for coming today. I really appreciate all the questions and input, great discussion and dialogue. This session has been recorded, and you'll get a link to that recording if you want to share it with any colleagues or go back for some lively entertainment maybe Friday night when you got nothing else to do. Don't forget, next week, project management, how to get projects back on track with the dynamic and engaging Julie Rayoum, and we hope to see you then. Thanks very much for attending.
Okay, and thank you, John, and thank you, everyone, as well.